there. We Knew the Moon, and my name is Dee, and I've got Tracy here.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
I'm so excited about this episode. I know we say this every time, but it's because I'm genuinely excited about each one. But today we're going to be talking about tarot. Are you excited, Tracy?
So excited. Tarot, I don't know much about. It's one of those things I'm starting to study, but it seems, where do you start? There's so many cards and there's so many different things to learn.
When we're doing our episodes on these different subjects, which we picked because we discussed them in season one, most of the time it's because we discussed them in season one and we thought, oh, this would be good to go into a little bit deeper in an episode on its own. What I find really useful is that a lot of the times I feel like I know a lot of the different things, but researching these episodes helps me put it into an order and put it all together so it makes more sense in my head. First of all, I wanted to ask you, Tracy, have you got a favorite tarot pack?
I have quite a few tarot decks. I started with the Rider-Waite tarot, which I found too dark.
Yeah.
Not pretty enough. And I've been given many other packs since. But to be honest, I'm just overwhelmed by them. And I've yet to find a pack that speaks to me, because I understand the pack is all about how you interpret the cards and it gives you the kind of visions for the story you're about to tell. But I haven't bonded with a pack. So any recommendations, Dee, would be great.
You hit the nail on the head there. You have to really bond with a deck. You know, it has to sing to you and it's completely personal. It will have to do with the style, the designs, the content, lots of different things. And it's funny that you mentioned Rider-Waite. That pack dates from 1909 and it is one of the most common ones. I too don't like it that much.
A lot of people don't actually, Dino, I've found. It's quite dark.
Yeah. And it's just, like you said, it's not pretty. It doesn't make me think cute. It doesn't intrigue me, the designs. I find it very stuffy and old fashioned and traditional. And that's fine. You know, that's just me. It's not me. It makes me sad, though, that a lot of people buy it as their first pack because it is one of the most common. And I think it can be quite off-putting.
Yes, it's not relatable. And I find it quite dark, which then led me to the thought path of, like, you know, some people think tarot is dark arts and tinkering with things that you shouldn't be. When you look at that pack of cards, and no offense to people that do use it and relate to it, and it's great that you do, but I can kind of see why it got that reputation.
Well, it's funny because the pack that I use most often, which I'll talk about later, is darker, I think. The design's
really?
But I just like it more. And just, you know, so it's all very personal. If you do have a pack of Rider-Waites and it's put you off, you know, and you find you don't use it, have a look at some others and see whether you can find one that's more suited to you. Let me tell you a little bit about the history of tarot. Really, really, really quick history of tarot. You've probably noticed that there's a clear similarity between playing cards and tarot cards, right? In terms of the different suits.
The size of them as well.
Size of them, the 1 to 10, and then the royal cards. The first playing cards that are noted in history originate in China in the 9th century. The first time tarot cards were recorded in history were in Italy in the 15th century, and they were known as the Charles IV deck. And Charles IV was the King of France. So these tarot cards are based on the original playing cards, which were gaining popularity.
Oh, so that's why they're similar. I didn't know that, Dee. That's interesting.
So as we talked about, there's loads of different decks. I mean, loads and loads and loads. It's just crazy how many. And with the internet,
themes, isn't there, as well? Like cats, fairies.
Exactly. So whatever you like, whatever your hobby is, your passion, there's probably a tarot deck based around that, isn't there? So just use your intuition and your eyes, basically, when picking them out. My favorite deck is the Wild Unknown by Kim Kranz. They're quite dark. They look like sort of pen scratches and stuff. My first deck was called the Witch's Tarot, which I don't know where it's gone. I've moved a few times since I got that first deck. I was a teenager. I must have been 12 or 13 when I got that first pack. So they've fallen by the wayside. I hope that they've fallen into someone's hands who really likes them and appreciates them. But I love them and I'm trying desperately to find another pack of them because I would love to own that again. The way that I found the Wild Unknown, which is the tarot deck that I use the most often, is because I had a friend who did a reading for me with them and I just loved them so much that I bought them for myself.
That's almost how it feels like. Maybe they need to fall into your life.
Yeah.
I've had tarot cards given to me as well.
Yeah, which is always nice, isn't it? It doesn't necessarily mean if someone buys them for you, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to bond with them. But that brings me to my next question. Can you buy your own tarot cards? Because there is this idea that you should be gifted your tarot cards.
Oh.
I would say just fucking buy your own tarot cards. Like, I'm not going to sit around and wait for someone to buy me something that I want. And it's really unrealistic. And so you might not have any witchy friends who are buying you tarot cards, or your witchy friends might not have money to buy you tarot cards. And
I put them on my Christmas list, and I do that with crystals as well, so that someone special buys them me.
You can do that for sure. There's also the argument that it's better if you buy your own because it's more personal and you can actually pick a deck that you really want. I would just
Where would you buy them from though, Dee? Because whenever I'm buying my spiritual stuff, I'm very fortunate that my shop sells a lot of it, so I get it from good sources. Yeah.
I mean, the ideal is to be able to see them firsthand and be able to see the cards, be able to see an open pack and have a little flick through them. That would be ideal. You know, in this modern age, you can watch videos about most of the tarot decks. I know that sounds weird, but if you can only order them online, whether it's through Amazon or Etsy, Etsy is a great place for tarot cards because you have a lot of independent designer ones. But have a look and see if you can watch an unpacking video or a video on YouTube where people are handling them and showing you the images and you get an idea of the size and the thickness of the card, things like that.
A lot of people do reviews on them. That's a really good idea. Sometimes the pictures you see just aren't enough.
Lots of different things that will make you love or hate a deck of cards. You know, if you have to go online and get some from Etsy or get some from Amazon, then so be it.
And like you say, if they're not right for you, gift them. That's what I need to do. Maybe have a sort out of the old shelf and give some away.
Oh, maybe we should start a thread of tarot swapping.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I've got one or two decks that I also never use, and I might as well just see if they make a better home somewhere else.
Yeah.
See that. Following on from this theory, this idea that, you know, whether you can buy your own tarot cards or whether they have to be gifted from someone else, there's also a lot of different theories about cleansing your decks between use.
Yes, I like to knock on my oracle cards.
So I'm going to list a couple of methods that people say you can use for cleansing your decks. But one thing I will say, as we always say, do what you want. Don't feel obliged to do any of this. Do what feels right. I pull a card every day, and I rarely cleanse my deck every day between uses. So let me tell you some ways that are suggested for cleansing your deck. Definitely between people using them. So if you're sharing them with someone, or if you're doing a reading for someone else and then you want to do a reading for yourself, definitely if you haven't used them in a while. The first way of cleansing your deck is to sort the cards. You and I both have slight OCD tendencies, don't we? So this pleases me.
You have to put them in order.
Just put them in order. That will help cleanse them, and it'd be like a fresh start, new pack. Isn't that nice?
Never thought of that. I spend so long trying to get them out of order, especially when you get that new pack.
And when you're not very good at shuffling, right?
Yes, exactly. Although that works in my favour with my oracle cards because I'm so rubbish at shuffling that I rarely have to pick a card because one just falls out usually. But you're so busy shuffling them, you don't think to put them back in order, do you? That's a really good tip.
The next technique for cleansing is to give them a moon bath. This is not the same as when we take a moon bath. This means leaving them on the windowsill so that they are bathed by the full moon. So quite like that. There's something to add to the list to put on the windowsill at a full moon, along with all the crystals and the moon water and the blah, blah, blah. Leave out in the fresh air or give them a sun bath. Salt, using salt. Crystals, you might leave your crystals on them or around them in between uses or just before use. This is the one that I think is most common or known, is the knocking on the deck 3 times. Now, this one is interesting because apparently there's a long tradition of blowing on things to remove bad luck, bad energy. And that's why when you go to casinos or you see casino scenes in movies, they get people to blow on the dice.
Yes, they do.
Right? Isn't
that why you blow on your cup of tea? I always thought that was to cool it down. You know,
probably on your tea, it's to cool it down. But if it's on dice or anything like that, it's for good luck / removing the bad luck, removing the bad energies. So you can do that with your tarot deck as well. Isn't that cool?
Oh, yeah.
And then another common one is visualization, meditation. So you would just visualize the bright light on your tarot deck or whatever, there's probably loads of different ones that you can use to visualize the cleansing.
Nice. And smudging them as well. If you don't set them on fire, if you're careful, wave a bit of
smudging them. Yeah, sorry, I missed that one. Number 4 was smudging with sage or with incense.
Yeah.
I haven't listed any sound ones, but I'm sure you can give them a sound bath. But yeah, just use your intuition. And as always, just do whatever feels right. There's no wrong answer, is there?
No.
We talked about oracle decks as well. So the main difference between tarot decks and oracle decks is that a tarot deck follows very strict, a fixed system, I should say. You know, there's the 78 cards, 22 major arcana cards, and 56 minor cards, which I'll go through them in more detail in a minute. Whereas the oracle cards are not fixed at all. They can be, you know, like we have our moonology ones from Yasmin Boland, which is just different phases of the moon and different zodiac signs relating to the moon. I got a really nice set of crystal ones. Got a lovely one called Witch's Kitchen, which is just loads of different ingredients. It's amazing. So you might pull out basil and it'll tell you a bit of the characteristic of pulling this card, but then it'll give you like a recipe that you might want to make. I
got for Christmas, Wisdom of Avalon card. I've always loved my angel cards by Doreen Virtue, but felt it was time to maybe have a little addition. And when we went to Glastonbury, we went to the Goddess Temple and you can pick cards there, right? And that was the deck I chose and I really loved them. And thought about it and pondered over it because I think that's the thing as well, like it's an investment and it's a thing that you do think over and decide. I got them for Christmas and I loved them so much. Aww. I love the story of them and the characters in them. And
I mean, you'll know if a deck of cards is for you because you'll literally fall in love with it when you see it, right? And the more you look at it, the more you love it. So oracle cards are much more free. There's loads more themes. They're not traditional tarot. So they're the ones, for example, that, again, Kim Krantz in her Wild Unknown series, she's got spirit animal ones, which I absolutely love. That's my oracle deck of choice. And the reason why I love it is because it's loads of different animals. So you pull out, for example, for last year, I did a year spread and I got the mouse as my animal for the year. It was so me because it was like you like to have very detail oriented, but you have to learn to sort of loosen up a bit and be a bit more spontaneous, which was totally me. But then what I love about that deck is that it tells you what you're like if you're in balance. It tells you what you're like if you're out of balance. And then it tells you what to do to get yourself back into balance, which I really like.
Nice. So you've got options.
Yeah. And it's just nice to be told, you know, when you're reading and you're like, oh, no, I'm definitely out of balance. But what do I do with that?
Yeah.
It's nice to be told. It'll say like, do some meditation or spend some time with a friend. I just find really useful.
A bit more simple, aren't they? Because they usually come with a book as well. So you draw your card and then you look at the book and it tells you what the card means. So
exactly.
I think tarots are open to a lot more interpretation and storytelling, whereas oracle cards, especially if you want to do a quick reading or like you do a daily one.
I pull a daily oracle card.
Do you?
And then I save my tarot when I have much more specific question or I want to do a more detailed reading or when I want to do my yearly spread. For bigger readings. But then you have lots of people that do full readings just with oracle cards.
You can do a spread of oracle with exactly the same as tarot. Yeah.
There's no wrong answers, right? We're not going to be judgy with our tarot. So oracle cards are different from tarot because they're much more fluid in their systems. And every oracle card is really different. So again, it's very much up to the individual designer of the oracle cards to define each one, what's included, what the different cards mean. There's no rules, which is really cool. So let's talk a little bit about a standard deck of tarot. So I'm not talking about oracle cards here. As I said, there's no rules about oracle cards. There's loads of different types. If you're new to tarot, you might prefer to start with oracle cards because they're a little bit easier. That might be a nice entryway. But I'm going to talk to you now about tarot decks, traditional formats of tarot decks. They're usually made out of 78 cards. 56 of them are divided into the 4 suits. And 22 of them are major arcana.
So it's the death, the priestess,
the hanged man, the tower, the lovers, the moon, the sun, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Hermit, the world. So it starts with these 22 major arcana cards. Do you know what arcana means?
No.
It means, in Latin, secret or mystery.
Oh, I like that.
Isn't that a fun fact?
Yeah.
So, the major arcana ones, the character cards, are sometimes numbered 0 to 21, meaning there's 22 of them. But that can be varied from deck to deck, and sometimes they're in different orders. So don't worry too much about that. And I'm not going to go through every single one of them.
They are on our website.
In our stuff section, we've got some info about most of the topics that we're covering on our podcast, and we go into a little bit of details. But I wanted to just list my top 3.
You've got a top 3. Is this because you've had a lot of interaction with them, or because the pictures are nice, or is it their meaning?
I think it's a little bit tied in with the ones that I like the most in my specific deck and the meanings. So usually number 0, normally it starts with the Fool, which, there's a lot of misconceptions, which I'll talk about in a minute, about different tarot cards and what they mean. Are some of them innately bad, evil, etc.? The Fool, some people might interpret that as like not a good thing, the Fool. But it actually symbolizes fresh starts, freedom, and courage.
Nice. Yeah.
And as I've said, I specifically need to work on constantly remembering to have fun and enjoy life, because otherwise I can get a bit too serious with it all. So the Fool is a good card to come up for me.
Like the inner child.
That's it. Exactly. This isn't going to be a surprise, but my next favorite one is the Moon. It's usually around number 18 if your tarot deck numbers these major arcana cards. And not surprising, the Moon card represents intuition, imagination, dreams, but also your like inner worries, your fears.
Right. Everything the Moon represents.
Exactly. Not a surprise there, right? And the Sun is my third favorite card, which normally comes after the Moon. And it symbolizes joy and optimism and success.
Nice.
Lovely. Who doesn't want joy, optimism, and success? So now I'm going to talk about the minor arcana. So the major ones being the first 22 cards that have different characters, different names. And the minor arcana are the ones that are divided into the 4 different suits. So these are the ones that really feel like they correspond with the playing cards.
And this is where I get confused. I think if we were just left with the major ones, it would feel like oracle cards, and they'd be very simple, and they'd only be 22 and it's all good. But then you have this extra layer to tarot, which is where my brain switches off. So tell me, Dee, I'm excited to try and get this.
I also want to say that you do not need to know all of this stuff off by heart to be able to do any kind of tarot reading. If you need to read the guide, and I've got some suggestions coming up to be able to do these readings, there's absolutely no problem with that at all. If you do them regularly, you'll obviously learn more and be able to do more of it automatically and without looking at the guide. You're not going to need to memorize all of this off the top of your head. So don't worry about that. I have got an amazing book that I'm smiling because Tracy got it for me for Christmas. And it's called Create Your Own Tarot Pack.
Oh, I forgot I got you this.
No.
It's in your advent calendar. Are you enjoying it?
I am. It has really good explanation about the different suits. So, on a playing cards, you've got the hearts, diamonds, spades, and clubs, right?
Yeah.
In tarot, you've got wands, swords, coins, and cups. Sometimes the coins are pentacles.
Right.
Just bear that in mind. You might have
depending on your deck, right?
Yeah, exactly. But basically, there's the 4 suits. Each of the suits have an associated element. So, for example, wands is linked to fire, cups is linked to water, swords is linked to air, and coins/pentacles is linked to earth. They're each linked to a season. They're each linked to a day, a timing, I should say. So, wands are linked with days, cups are linked with months, swords is linked with weeks. And coins and pentacles are linked with years.
Interesting.
I know. I didn't know that. So, for example, if you pull a wand card, it's going to be relating to the upcoming days. Whereas if you're pulling a cups card, it's going to be linked to the upcoming months. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
They each have a keyword, and I love this. So wands is momentum, cups is emotion, swords is mental, and coin/pentacle is physical.
Which ties in with the element a little bit.
Exactly. Like the swords being air, being mental, it all links to each other, doesn't it? And then they're all associated with qualities. So wands is associated with action, creativity, energy, enterprise, intuition. Cups, which is the keyword emotional, is linked to love, relationships, happiness, harmony. Swords, which has the keyword mental, is linked to ideas, communication, separation, resolution, change. Coins and pentacles, which is linked to physical, is linked with money, work, talent, achievement, stability, and the material realm. So, you can see how it's all starting to link together a little.
It does, especially if you look at the elements and then those words. And yeah, it's tying in nicely, Dee. I like it.
Exactly. So if you want to learn more about tarot, I definitely recommend finding a little table with a similar breakdown and just having that available to look at for like a quick guide, what each of the suits mean. So now you have the minor arcana cards, which are the ones that are divided into the suits. And that is also divided up into the court cards and the number cards. So the court cards are the king, queen, jack, or knight, and the page or daughter, depending on what deck you use. And the number cards are the ones that have numbers on them, like the 3 of cups. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the court cards. In the playing cards, you've got jack, queen, king. In tarot, you have 4 court cards in each suit, and they are the pages, knights, queens, and kings. Now, different decks might use slightly different terminology. For example, in my tarot, it's daughters, knights, queens, and king. The court cards, also known as the face cards, because they have faces, the page or the daughter symbolizes youth, service, creativity, devotion, sensitivity, and introspection. The knight card represents action, passion, impulse, determination, enthusiasm. The queen card symbolizes support, reliability, femininity, knowledge, beautification. And the king card represents order, control, wisdom, strategy, masculinity, responsibility, sound judgment. So if you think about getting the king of pentacles, coins, then that is a card that is an earth element, symbolizes years, physical, money, work, material elements. And the fact that it's a king symbolizes order, control, wisdom, strategy, masculinity. So you can start interpreting the cards based on the suit and the number or face that it has on it.
Telling their story.
Exactly.
Nice.
Also, different decks have different artwork on them, which will also help or sometimes hinder in terms of the interpretation. So some decks are very visually explanatory. Do you know what I mean? Like some of them, you can look at the picture and it gives a very clear idea of what that card means, and others less so. You may want one that by looking at the design, you can get a very good sense of what that card means, what it might mean.
That is how you bond with them, isn't it? By having that story that you get visually, and it triggers an emotion, which then triggers the meaning, and it builds together this picture, which is what you want to read and the juicy bits you want to know, right?
Exactly. So they often recommend, if you want to get a bit of practice for doing readings, to do your spread and then write down what you think it means without looking at any book, and then look at the book and see how close or how far you are. Because that's also how you add your personal flavor to a reading, and you introduce your intuition, which especially when you're doing a reading for yourself, super important. The next thing I will go through with you is the numbers meanings. So we've gone through what the different suits represent. We've gone through what the different court cards represent. So now these are what the different numbers mean. Number 1, boundless energy, potential, opportunity, change. Number 2, union, opposites, harmony, balance. Not surprising because it's the number 2. Number 3 is growth, completion, and groups. Number 4 is stability and manifestation. Number 5 is change and chaos. Sorry, I don't know why that made me laugh. Number 6 is harmony, realignment, reconciliation. Number 7 is knowledge and steadfastness. Number 8 is achievement, change, and advancement. Number 9 is transitions and materialization. And number 10 is accumulation, completion, and rest. So using these different blocks of information that we have about what the different suits mean, what the different numbers mean. For example, the 10 of Cups symbolizes completion and rest. But because it's a Cups card, It's emotional, so it's relating to your love and your relationship side. So completion and rest on an emotional level.
Interesting.
Rather than if it was a 10 of coins or pentacles, where it would be completion and rest relating to your physical world.
All makes sense, doesn't it, Day? It all ties in. So you don't need to be overwhelmed with a big book with each card having a meaning and memorize them all. Just get
Definitely
a feeling of each card.
We just want you to get an understanding about how these interpretations have been built up. And if you need to use a physical guide, or you need to use the book that comes with the tarot, no shame in that at all, because it's a lot to remember. Otherwise, you're not going to remember very easily 78 cards worth of information. Have you heard of when a card is reversed in a reading?
Yes. So if it lands facing the right way or if it's upside down.
Basically, yeah. There's also different theories about what to do if a card is reversed. And some people say that it means literally the opposite, which some people take to mean bad. Like, for example, if we use the 10 of Cups as an example again, we said that it's relating to completion and rest on an emotional level. So relating to your relationships and your friendships and so forth. If you got that card reversed, it might mean that you are not in a period of rest with regards to your emotional relationships, that they might be unsettled. Yes, you could look at that negatively and say that that's bad. You could look at it positively and say, okay, it's time to focus on this and get it settled and make some decisions and decide what I want to happen in this area. So it's never as simple as saying that something is bad or a card is bad. Some people don't use reverse cards at all in their readings. They just read it straight. So it's a personal choice, whether you take special note about whether a card is upside down or not. Before you even open up the book to start reading the interpretations, there's a few things you want to just make a note of. Have a look at the general spread and notice if you have a dominant suit representing itself or a suit that's completely absent. Like, do you not have any cups or have you got just loads of pentacles? Is a disproportionate number of major arcana cards, which they say means there's larger forces at work.
That sounds a bit woo-woo, doesn't it?
Also, have a look and see if you have predominantly suit cards, so the minor arcana ones. That's quite positive, actually, because it means that the matter is in the querent's hands, which I think is quite positive because it means that it's something that you can do something about. I find it really difficult doing readings for friends. I never do it professionally because I'm not a professional tarot reader. So I mainly just do it for myself. But when I do readings for friends, I find it really difficult to separate what I know of them. And most importantly, what I think they want to hear.
Yeah.
That you can't, when you do a reading, assume what the other person wants to hear. You just got to focus 100% on your intuition, which is quite difficult when you know the person and you know the ins and outs of the dilemma that they might be asking about. So here's a question, because I wanted to tackle a lot of the sort of myths and theories and ideas about tarot readings and tarot cards. Are there any bad cards? You always have this in scenes in movies when someone
pulls... the Hanged Man and Death doesn't sound great, does it?
Exactly. And also the imagery used in a different tarot deck can make a card seem more...
it's scary to death if you see some of the images on these older style cards as well.
Exactly. So you can't help but look at that image and go, ooh. And, these, in particular, these, in quotation mark, bad cards have also affected the reputation of tarot reading on the whole, that they kind of predict things and tap into the dark arts and so forth. I am of the school of belief that there's no bad cards. For example, we assume that some cards are good, like the Sun and the Lovers. They sound lovely, don't they? They also, like with astrology, with your star sign, your moon sign, and so forth, your archetypes and all of these things, there's a light side and a shadow side. The death sounds awful, but actually it's a card of change and transformation. That change and transformation could be good. Maybe you're actually doing something that you've wanted to do for ages. It might be an involuntary change that's more uncomfortable. So there's no inherently bad cards. It also matters more almost where the card appears in your reading.
Oh, okay.
So what it is representing. I wanted to talk to you about a couple of the most common spreads for doing readings. The easiest one to do, which is the one I do daily with my oracle cards, is a 1-card draw, where I literally just think, what do I need to embody today? Because it's normally my animal spirit cards.
And you do that every day, Dee?
Yeah, most days when I sit at my desk and I think to myself, what animal spirit do I need to embody today? So then the other reading that's quite common is the 3-card spread.
Yes, this is the one I started with.
The past, the present, the future.
Very simple, very easy.
Yeah. This one, you would either just do the reading generally, or you might have a specific question or a specific person in mind. You know, it might be a relationship. And here you see where it starts mattering, where a card appears in your reading. If you had, in quotation marks, a bad card appear in your past, but the future card was much more positive, you wouldn't be too freaked out, would you?
No, it shows your journey. It's more if the bad card is in your future.
That you might start shitting yourself a bit, right?
Yes. Exactly. But again, that bad card's open to interpretation, like death, change. Change can be good as well as...
Exactly. If you're in a shit situation, if you're not happy with your life and you get a change card, then you're going to be fine with that, hopefully.
Yeah.
If you are the type of person that loves change, adventure, blah, 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 then you'll be happy to get those kinds of cards. If you're really happy with your life and you pull a change card, that might make you more nervous. So it really depends on yourself, the question you've asked, the place it appears in your reading. Then you've got different types of spreads, like the Celtic Cross, which is 10 cards and so forth. I have to admit, I never do sort of the bigger spreads, except for once a year, I do a year spread where I pull a card for each month and then another card for the whole year. And then I normally pull an oracle card for the whole year as well. But there's loads of different types of readings. And again, same with picking a pack. Picking a style of reading and spread is also very personal and really depends on what you're asking and what your style is. But definitely start with the smaller readings if you're new to tarot. Don't fucking start with a 20 card spread and try to work out how all the cards interact.
I think it's like a diamond one, and don't quote me on this, but it's to do with different aspects of your life. So one will be life, like home, one will be work, one will be love.
Exactly.
You know, and you work around, and each card in the diamond represents, and then the one in the middle, I think, is your overall outlook. That's quite a nice one to do because it's not past, present, and future. It's more the different aspects of each part of your life. Yeah.
So there's loads of different ones. You can Google them online, or when you have a tarot book, it might have a few examples in the beginning of the book, but start with the smaller ones. The past, present, future one is a really good one to start out with. If you're new to tarot, don't overwhelm yourself. And I always like to take a picture of my spreads.
Do you? Do you put them in a spreadsheet?
No, I don't put them in a spreadsheet. But I take a picture of them, and like with my yearly spread, I'll print it out and put it in a diary. I want to recommend a book, which for me has changed my tarot game. And it's called Beyond the White Book by Liz Worth. When I do a reading, I properly get settled in because I know it's going to take a while, because for each reading, I look at the overall picture and I see what I think I can interpret from the pictures and so forth. Then I go through and I read the description in this book, Beyond the White Book by Liz Worth. And it's amazing because she has literally like 4 or 5 pages on each card. She has a mantra, an intention for each card, which I normally make note of.
So there's that much to say about each one.
Each card.
There's so much.
There's a different section for if the card came up in a career reading or a relationship reading. She then goes into details. If you use reverse cards, she goes into detail about what it means if a card comes up in reverse. But then for each of those, she lists questions to ask yourself.
It reminds me of a self-care activity.
Oh, definitely. So that's how I view it.
It shouldn't be rushed. This is something where you should grab your books and whatever else you need, your essential oils, your crystals, your incense, your nice music.
Making an occasion.
You've convinced me to maybe get the tarot cards down, but I do think investing in the right pack is the very first point of call.
So I think it's definitely an area that's got a little bit of tarot snobbery about it, you know, in terms of how you practice, where you get your cards, what kind of cards you use, blah, blah, blah. Just throw all that out the window and just do what you want. Buy whatever cards appeals to you, whether they're more traditional type tarot, whether they're oracle cards. If you love cats, do a Google for tarot and cats and you'll find loads of cat related decks, won't you?
I sell a cat tarot in my shop. Yeah, you can get cat tarot. Very popular, very popular.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode.
Thanks, Dee. I'm off to grab my tarot deck now and see what I can find out about myself.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed that and you want more from us, why don't you head over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/We Knew the Moon.
and check out some bonus content.
Also, if you want to stay up to date, you can follow us on our Facebook page at we.knew.the.moon. If you could leave us a review on our Facebook page, that would mean a lot.
Our Instagram handle is the same as our Facebook, at we.knew.the.moon. We are on Twitter at WeKnewTheMoon1, and we are also on Pinterest. Just search for We Knew the Moon.
Finally, if you want lots more fun, moon info and all things spiritual, plus our lovely shop, please visit our website, weknewthemoon.co.uk.